What is good, guys, and welcome back to the Sports Scoop. And today, me and Suraj and Dylan, I'm here, Dylan Shalom, are going to be talking about the first week of the NFL training camp. It's a good time to be watching the NFL if you're really a big fan of the league because some of the most interesting stuff happens here. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So, starting off the topic, it was the Zach Wilson holdout. Zach Wilson did hold out for the first few practices over disputes with the New York Jets organization over offset talk. And I think it was a very minor dispute considering that offset did not even come into effect until over the next few years, and it would only save the Jets only a couple $1 million of money, which obviously isn't huge in the NFL landscape. And I think it was a stupid dispute. I think the reason why is because Zach Wilson, he's going in and he's going to be your starting quarterback as a rookie, and he's going to have to go in and meet all the players because he met some in voluntary OTAs, but he didn't meet all in training camp. That's what he's going to do. And I think the only way for him to be more and more acclimated to the NFL life, to the NFL talent, to the playbook, I think the only way he does that is by getting in practices. You know what they say, practice makes perfect. I think the more times he gets in there, the better off he's going to be. And the fact that even though he only lost a few, I think it was 1 or 2 practices, even though we only lost a few practices, I still think that could have an impact on how ready he is for week 1. And that's why I think the Jets were working out some backup quarterbacks like Josh Johnson or Sean Mannion. So I think it was obviously not the preferred starts to the Jets. Now moving on to our next topic, Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson are back. I think no one expected both of those guys to be back. I think Deshaun, we thought, there's zero chance that he is back in training camp, but he is, albeit looking a bit somberly. He seems to be a bit more isolated. He's gone through a lot during this summer. I think people don't really know what to think of Deshaun Watson at the moment. I think a lot of people are very, very surprised that he is back in training camp. People are also surprised Aaron Rodgers is back in training camp, but for different reasons, football related, thankfully. Aaron Rodgers obviously was in a huge dispute with the Packers over not giving them enough talk in what the organization wants to do. And he obviously did want to leave the Packers at some points during the season, and he even said himself that he contemplated retirement. But the fact that he is back in training camp is very, very good news for the Packers. It should boost them and what people are starting to build up as a last dance for them. Dylan, what do you think?
Well, I think they got more than a dance left in them because I don't think I've seen any signs of Aaron Rodgers regressing, and they've got the players to go forward for more years. It's just whether or not they can do it in the playoffs, but that's not really the point. It's surprising to see Rodgers back in training camp just based on how angry he was with the organization. And the fact that they worked something out is truly incredible given the anger on both sides because the Packers were not happy with Aaron Rodgers also. And moving over to Deshaun Watson, I don't want to make any snap judgments, so I'm not really going to talk about the impending charges on him. But football related either way, it's surprising to see him in training camp because he did not want to be there either. He was very hell-bent on leaving. So it's both ways. It's very surprising to see them back, and it's good for them to be with their teams just to get reps again, get reps for the season, because that's what you need going into it.
I 100% agree. Now going on to our next segment, there are injuries across the league already, which is something we don't want to see. For Carson Wentz, who is out indefinitely, we do not know. I don't think we know really if he will start week 1 because the injury is so unclear at the moment. And the other one, not as major. I think it's just Dak Prescott. He was sitting out a few days for a shoulder injury. The only thing that I feel like a problem with this for Dak is because you probably want him to get more and more reps considering he might be rusty coming off that ankle injury. It's another thing about wanting to get into practice, want to get reacclimated with his teammates. And the shoulder injury, while minor, I think it's the right decision by the Cowboys to hold him out, make sure that he doesn't re-injure himself. And then with Carson Wentz, an injury that, Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, but he didn't get in training camp. Something more he was holding off for a little while.
Exactly.
And now that could be a problem considering we might have to see Jacob Eason starting week 1, given that the severity of the injury is very unclear.
Yeah, we've seen nothing on the scans for Carson Wentz. I hope all the best for him. He's had a really, really injury-plagued career, so I want him to get better as soon as possible. But for the Colts, it's not looking good because they have very little quarterback depth, and I'm not going against Jacob Eason. He's not played an NFL snap in his career, so I can't really make a judgment about him either. But just given that this team looks ready to make a run with Wentz at the helm, if he gets back to his form, this team could get to even the divisional round or the championship game. But it's not a good look for them to have no QB that's a solid starter in training camp. And for Dak Prescott, no minor injury is minor if you play him on it. So it's a really good decision by the Cowboys not to let him play, because say he tears his rotator cuff in a throw and he's just a minor shoulder injury, and then he's out for the season, you have to go back to playing Ben DiNucci. You gotta just keep him out. It doesn't. I said reps are important, but making sure your guys are healthy is even more important.
Even for Cowboys fans, that's too much to watch Ben DiNucci.
Yeah.
I think that would be horrible. But speaking of fans, we have seen recently the fans have returned to the stadiums. What a segment change. And I think this is just great overall. I think obviously it's a good test as well, given that the NFL is planning to have full capacity in 30 of the 32 NFL stadiums, which could be a bit risky, but I think if many people are clearing off, if people think it will be a big deal, I think that's great for the league. It's great for the fans to finally get and to see their favorite teams again. And I think training camp, I think it's going to be nice. I'm sure depending on your preferences, I'm sure some players enjoy it. Some players probably like to be alone, probably like to just get to work and not have the spotlight on them with the fans, with the media and that topics floating around. But I think it's very, very good for football.
I think it's good for the players to have the fans of the stadium, because it's a lot of motivation for them to do better every day. And the open training camps are always the training camps that are going to be broadcasted more to the world. So you really get to see, in the eyes of the fans and in the eyes of reporters, what is happening behind closed doors. So it's really important for the fans to see, or I wouldn't say important, really good for the fans to see how their players are progressing, because then they have a realistic sense of what's happening in their team. And for the players, it just gives them motivation to work 10 times harder than they have been. And rolling on to the next segment, we've got contract holdouts. And the main one is Xavier Howard, who requested a trade from the Miami Dolphins. And they're working on a new deal at this moment. They are trying to make both sides happy. Both sides have understand their problems. And for me, I think just pay the guy who's the best player on their defense. You got to just get it over with. But for the real problem for me is how it's going to strike the other players that he went out of his way to ask for more money when this team could be making a run deep into the playoffs at this point. Because just based on what I know, based on the information I've been given, it seems like a selfish move just to be one-upped over Byron Jones. And honestly, I think it's going to hurt his relationship with the secondary, because that is a tight-knit Brian Flores group. And if you're going out there asking for compensation before another guy just solely to get paid more than him, it really doesn't hit the right bell. So it could cause nothing. It could be Byron Jones saying, okay, you're a better corner than me, you deserve it. But for me, I don't know. Then there's Jesse Bates from the Cincinnati Bengals, not seeming to be a big problem. His contract year is next year, but right now he is disputing with the Bengals for a new contract. It's probably nothing much, but it's a little bit.
Yeah, and also sometimes it's a little bit that can really set off a fire, which is what we saw with Xavier Howard. And I think with Xavier Howard, I would still have my money on him to actually be traded, because I understand obviously the reconciliation is starting to get a little bit better. But that being said, I don't know if the Dolphins will be willing to pay the figures that Xavier Howard will want, especially with probably wanting other players, especially without wanting to maybe upset Byron Jones, who, remember, is their also high priority cornerback who currently is the highest paid cornerback in the National Football League. And I think Xavier, I could see him going to multiple places. I'm sure a lot of teams in the NFL would kill for a good corner like Xavier Howard. And I could see them getting an offer that, who knows, maybe they can't refuse, and maybe Xavier shipped off. I think there's definitely a chance that he stays though in Miami, especially considering how integral he is to this defense. But he isn't the only part that keeps the Dolphins defense very, very good. So I could see this being this going either way, but all I know is that it is a problem currently for Miami, and I think this has to be fixed soon if they do want to keep their star quarterback.
Rolling on to the next segment, we got quarterback battles. And at the start of training camp, I thought there would be 3. It's quickly moved over to 4. It's quickly moved over to 2. Justin Fields will not be the Week 1 starter. It's been confirmed that Andy Dalton will be, and Trey Lance will not be the Week 1 starter. It's been confirmed that Jimmy Garoppolo will be. But the first one I'd like to talk about is Taysom Hill versus Jameis Winston. And I could see this going a whole lot of ways. I could see Taysom Hill starting at quarterback. I could see Taysom Hill starting at running back. I could see him starting at wide receiver, tight end, wherever the Saints need him, he could go. Not running back. Kamara's starting there. But for me, I think you get Jameis Winston ready with this playbook. You make sure he's not throwing deep bombs every play. You make sure he's hitting his top receiver and Michael Thomas, and this team is formidable again. But you get the Jameis Winston that went 30-30, this team's not making the playoffs. So it's a very high risk, high reward. And I think right now the Saints are a team that need to take that risk to be able to maintain their ground in the NFC. And then the other quarterback battle that has not been decided is Cam Newton and Mac Jones, as Cam Newton calls him, mac and cheese. I think Cam Newton has this on lock, and it's not because he's a better quarterback. I think Mac Jones is probably a little bit better, and I don't think any of them are that good. But he's the veteran. Mac Jones is the rookie. They're going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I can see the thing with the Newton Jones thing. I can see right now you could say they're on par, which I agree. But as training camp goes on, as Mac becomes more acclimated with his wide receivers, I can see the gap getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and which makes it almost unjustifiable to start Cam when Mac Jones would be doing so well. Because I think Mac Jones is going to be better and better than Cam Newton as training camp progresses. And I wouldn't be surprised if even if he doesn't start Week 1, that he starts very, very early in the season. With Winston Hill, I understand this is a training camp QB battle. I understand why Hill would be given his fair slice, but I think Jameis has to be the pick, especially considering how everyone's saying, oh, he's been getting so much better. He got that laser surgery on his eye, and now he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not so sure about that, but I still think he'll be I think he'll be a much, much bigger upgrade than Taysom Hill. And I think, like Dylan said, you have to take risks to stay at the top of the NFL, and I think that's what New Orleans do if they want to even remotely challenge Tampa Bay in the division. Now moving on to our last thing, we have standout players. Dylan, who are our standout players, and what do you want to say about them?
Standout player number 1 is Ezekiel Elliott, coming off of a horrible season. I'm just going to say it like it was. It was not a good season in any way. He looks like a different player. He looks like he's in shape again. He looks like he's running at a speed that is comparable to other NFL running backs at this point. And he breaks tackle like almost nobody else. I'm not going to say nobody else because Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb exist. But he looks like he's back into his normal form. But a little nagging ankle injury could knock him out. So you need to just make sure he's healthy. Don't kill him in training camp. And see what happens, because if he's running at the right rate, then the Cowboys will be a force to be reckoned with.
I agree. I think Zeke, if he gets back to that back-to-back rushing champ form, I think that's very scary for the NFL, because it gives the Cowboys back their dimension of runs to set up the pass or pass to set up the run. You can't cover both. And I think with Ezekiel Elliott, obviously he's going to be behind a worse offensive line than he was in probably the prime Cowboys offense days, prime Zeke days. But I still think he has potential to be a 1,000-yard rusher again, especially with the talent that he has, with the strength that he has. And given that this division that he's in isn't that very good, I think now that we've added a game, I think his goal should definitely be at least 1,000 yards, especially with the talent and the capability that he has.
The second standout player I'd like to talk about is someone that everyone on this channel had very, very high hopes for, and it is Ravens rookie receiver Rashad Bateman. And he is absolutely toasting this defense right now. We'll roll a clip of him destroying Marlon Humphrey. He's just so fast. He's so dangerous. And I don't know how it's possible to guard someone with that stature and that just that build. So, I mean, I don't want to say he's DK Metcalf, but that's what my NFL comparison to him would be, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets there.
Wow, that's very high hopes. I think a lot of us expect to, even with Samuel Watkins, that Rashad Bateman can easily be wide receiver 1 at the start of week 1. And I think, and that's what we thought, because he has that much talent that he definitely does have the capability to go in, be that wide receiver number 1, light up NFL defense, his route running with his good hands, with his decent sized frame, also for his other capabilities, his brilliant ability yards after catch. And I think he has the potential. And I think he's really starting off really well in Baltimore. I know they have Sammy Watkins and Marquise Brown, but I think Bateman could be the best of them. Even if he doesn't start in that week 1 role, I think eventually, I think Bateman will soon be Lamar's favorite target on the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think time will tell, but it's gonna happen. He's the best receiver on this team, and that's no disrespect to any of the other guys. I think Marquise Brown still has a lot of potential left in him, and I think he's going to step up this season as well. But the third player that we think is a main standout is Atlanta Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan, or as the players are calling him, Matty Skates, because he has gotten faster. And that's what everyone in the camp is saying. His mobility has skyrocketed since the last season. And I think it would be really fun to watch him just run with the best quarterbacks. I don't know if that's what they're talking about. I don't know if they're saying he's going to be like some Josh Allen type mobility, or they're talking about him just getting a little bit faster. But I think it would be a really, really good storyline for this NFL season if he just starts running like the youngest quarterbacks in the league. But either way, that's not all I want to talk about. He's been airing the ball out like he used to in 2017. And Calvin Ridley looks really good, and Kyle Pitts looks really good. So I think with the weapons he has around him, even losing Julio, I don't think it's that big a deal for them. Well, it's obviously, I'll rephrase that. It's a big deal, but it's not as big as a lot of people might say it is. So Atlanta Falcons, Matt Ryan, look out, NFC South.
I think honestly, rarely do you see how old is he now? 36.
Oh, wow.
How often do you hit 36-year-old quarterback getting up in speed? Honestly, I think the Falcons offense could still be very good. Remember, they still have Calvin Ridley, who, when Julio wasn't on the field, which was a decent bit of time, Calvin did flourish in that number 1 role. You do have rookie standout Kyle Pitts, who is almost guaranteed to be a great player at the NFL level. You have other decent role players like a Russell Gage and Olamide Zaccheaus. So I really think the Falcons can be a very solid offense, especially if people have such high hopes for Matt Ryan, especially coming into a year where they expect him to have such a big regression. So Matt Ryan, I think it'd be very hard to lead them to the play, especially considering you have Tampa Bay and New Orleans and an up-and-coming Carolina in this division. But it's very promising for a Falcons team that seems to be on the downturn at the moment.
And that's going to hit the end of this video. Of course, check out our Instagram, Twitter, just all our social medias. We're on pretty much everything. And subscribe. We need to get those watch hours. Watch the whole video. If you got here, you like us, so watch some more. And any new subscribers, I've said this in a bunch of videos. If you disagree with my opinions, at Dylan_Shalom, all lowercase, hit me up. All right. And without further ado, let's get out of here. See you guys.